I didn't check my hair or anything before this. Right. Let's just check that the stream is working properly. It seems to be. Do I have sound? Yes, I have sound. Okay, so let me just go and make sure that David is present. And also make sure that people know. Right. So, should have gone through. Should have gone to the toilet as well. That would have been good, wouldn't it? Right. Okay. I just need to once I know that David, if you're here, let me know, and then we can get going. So let's also make sure that we've got the sync sketch video linked properly. That should be fine. How is everyone today? Hope you're having a lovely Thursday. This is the one I actually want to load. Right, I'm going to copy and paste that into the chat, so if people want to follow along with the sync sketch, or in fact be slightly ahead of what's on screen, then that's cool. And let us find out. David, are you here? So just make sure I mute everything so that we don't get pinged for various things. Hello. Hello, Pineapple. How are you? Right. Okay, he's watching apparently. Cool. Well, if you have any questions or anything, I take it that means you might not have a Twitch account. In which case I'll just have to keep checking some other form if you have any questions, or you can ask questions afterwards. It's fine. Right. So this is all a little bit last minute. I was a little bit busy, so I didn't get quite as much time to prep as I wanted to. But it's okay. I'm a professional, so we'll watch it through a couple of times, and then we'll get going. Cool. Okay, we'll let it run one more time, and then we'll. I chopped out the title card after this first section, so just to make it easier to go through. Cool. Okay, so I mean, to start with, first thing to say is it's a great reel. Like it's really cool. So and actually, like a lot of it, I didn't have too many comments, or at least on kind of the first few run throughs, there's nothing that kind of obviously stands out. So obviously the two, because I'm very guilty of scrubbing through or like taking too long going through everything. We're going to focus on, to start with, the two bigger shots. So this one with the motorbike, and this one with the really very violent attack at the end of that. So let's kick off with motorcycle. So on first watching, it looks great. Like there's not like it when you first watch it, or when you just kind of are watching it once in as it goes. It like there's nothing kind of stands out as being particularly egregious. It's actually it just is quite a nice shot. Um, there are a few little things that I want to talk about, and I mean to be fair, it's a super difficult shot. Like it seems, I I'm not entirely sure how I would go about doing this, because there's a lot of different things happening here. There's a lot of kind of different physical interactions and forces happening, so it's uh, it's definitely challenging. So forgive me if I struggle to kind of explain some of the things that I want to talk about. Um, so yeah, as I say, overall it's great, and the main character has like a really nice kind of erratic feeling. So I'm not entirely sure like whether you've animated this on. Feels like it's animated on ones almost in places, because there's a lot of kind of like jitter and stuff, and that actually adds a lot. Like her little her hips kind of like bumping up and down here as she's kind of going over the road actually is really kind of cool. I think there might be a few kind of fundamental things, like the overall kind of path might need to be kind of tuned up a little bit before getting into all those kind of details, but generally it feels pretty good. Like for example, coming around this corner here, like it feels like she should travel a little bit wider. Like the bike feels like it's going reasonably fast at this starting bit, and it feels like she should probably, like she kind of gets to here, and she's kind of come up really fast, and there's sort of a right angle as she's come around the corner, and I think kind of needs, like, she comes out a little bit, but she should be going around here. Like, I mean, to be honest, like if you wanted to, you could do something pretty cool where she like actually like collides with the barrier or something. But I mean, that might be a bit extreme. But yeah, there's that's it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's just that right angle where it just feels like she's kind of just not worrying about the force going this way into screen anymore, and going she's just changing direction on a dime, which in theory she's on a very long pendulum here, and she is a significant mass on the end of that pendulum. So that's the only thing that I think I'd say about that. Like I, even though some of the the posing and the action is kind of a little bit jittery, it sort of works. So I'm not actually too concerned with. I mean, she kind of goes through the floor a little bit here, which something you could, something you can clean up a bit, but um, yeah, maybe it feels like maybe that's it. Maybe that's. I wonder whether part of the issue is that she starts to roll. She starts to roll out and to the side here before he's even finished his. He's not even finished his turn. No, it's, no, no. I take that back. I think that's fine. I think let me just delete that key. Ignore that. I think that's okay. I can feel that like this bit comes up a little bit too high. Sorry. Like it's difficult to see, but yeah, look, it feels like her shoulders are like there's way too big a gap here. That doesn't make a ton of sense for me. Yeah, it's kind of poppy, but it also kind of works. Like it's fascinating. You could extend this toe out a little bit. Just give it that sense of being dragged forwards. Just watch here. Yeah, there's a little kind of pop there as she comes out of the corner that it feels like he's accelerated or something, but actually he's actually slowed down. So the motorcyclist, as he's coming up here, he's doing a little skid, which in theory means he's slowing, but it feels like she's getting this here feels like a pull, like rather than actually she should be further back, because it feels like it should be more relaxed, or that she's she's starting to catch up with him slightly. So I think there's just a few bits of timing, like where it's almost like she's a little bit prescient about what's happening next, and that makes her feel not that she's in control, but just that she's reacting before she really ought to be reacting. I do want to talk a little bit about the guy's pose as well. Like it's not the most ideal, I guess, character rig for this, but like there are a couple of instances where his pose feels a little bit weird. Like I kind of feel like the bike should already be leaning a bit more. And actually he doesn't need to lean off the bike quite as much as this. Like again, it kind of feels like he's like the bike wants to stay upright and he's really trying to like push it off balance, which, if you're doing it in combination with steering, like turning the handlebars, it should just, you can just do a gentle lean. Obviously he's on a motocross bike, so like you could make more of his bum sliding off a little bit more, which, and then kind of have this leg kind of be a little bit straighter, and then you don't have to have quite so much of this action coming over the top. Like, because here, like it feels like the handlebars haven't really turned or something. Like, I mean, this handlebar must be digging right into his stomach. Like, and then you've got some slightly weird, slightly odd angles on the hands and elbows and things. Like it just feels a little bit awkward. I'm not entirely sure. Like again, I think this leg could probably straighten out a little bit more. I mean, it might just be because he's got an absolutely massive upper body and shoulders, but there's something about the way he's sat that just, if like this all feels a little bit too kind of close and a bit uncomfortable. Knee shifts, yeah, and again this pose here, like difficult to do, but it feels like the if he's doing a little skid here rather than just a tight turn, then it feels like this wheel needs to kick back out a little bit more. And yeah, like typically, I'm trying to think about what motocross riders look like when they're going around corners and stuff. I imagine. Let's look. Yeah, I mean, generally, if you take a look, like there's the bike and the bike and the rider tend to try and always be equalizing themselves to be in a straight line, um, and there are a few instances where it's not quite as much, where they kind of counter instead. Actually, I think he should be much more upright. If the bike's going this way, he either needs to be upright here, or I think it's because he leans into it so much. I think, and I mean, I'm not a bike rider, so I haven't looked at very much reference. But I feel like if you were going to do a sharp turn, you'd maybe like do a sharp lean into a pose, kind of like this, and then quickly straighten up as you've kicked, because you've leant over in order to kick the bike out, and then you have to counterbalance by straightening up again. I think that might. It's kind of one of those, like, motorbike anims are really difficult because they're obviously two independent physical objects. But he just feels way too off balance here, in quite an uncomfortable pose for too long. Like it lasts much too long. Um, oh no, that's fine, no problem. Hello. I'm glad you are on Twitch now. Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions whilst I'm going, then just give me a shout. Right, remind me what time you have to go again. It was sort of 9 Mountain Standard Time, which is 4, I think, 4 GMT. So I'll keep going. But yeah, just I think he just feels like he's leaning too much, and the bike starts to. If you watch here, the bike is kind of going at this angle, and then it starts to tilt back up, but he's still over here, and it kind of feels like the bike is shifting his weight, not he's. Yeah, it feels like the bike is moving him, not him moving the bike. I feel like this slide up into this position up here should happen, like maybe back here somewhere, and that he should already be kind of straightening up a bit more here. Because yeah, the bike turning back in whilst he's actually still over there is kind of a bit odd. Similarly here, like this motion here where she gets flung across to one side is cool. Again, it feels a little bit like it's possibly not responding to what the bike is doing so much, but obviously she can see the car, you know, and if he just keeps going, then obviously she's going to go careering into this, and you know, it's going to be it's going to be a bad time. So that's fine, but what I would say then is, especially if she's come out further here, like as I was talking about before, where if she comes out much farther and then starts to kind of skirt back in, you know, if she was kind of over here somewhere, as she's coming this way, what I would want to see, if she's clocked this and she knows it's coming, then I would say that before she does the side dodge thing, like I would get her into a position where her shoulders are actually up this way. Now that's not obviously a great drawing, but you know what I mean, right? I'd try and get her going this way, so that when she goes into this bit, you get a lot of. Let me hold the drawings as well. Oh no, we've got a camera, so that doesn't actually work, does it? Stupid. Right. So I'd have her kind of basically. I'd have her. She clocks that she's going to crash into this thing. So I think she would counter rotate and then use that momentum to swing over to the other side, which then gets you then this action over here. And I think that might just, because then when you get that, you get contrast between this pose here where you've got your line of action going this way, and you get the full roll. So again, if you consider, like, you know, if I do another horrible drawing, you know, where she actually really throws herself going the other way instead, and then you'll get that sense that she's kind of trying to actively get herself out of the way of this thing. So you get some nice contrast with the shape of the shoulders. Like, where are we going? Like from here, so the shoulders going this way, all the way to this side, and then you have that follow through of the legs and stuff as well. Like you can go more crazy with this curve on the back here. Really have it go out. Like put more curvature through here, because she feels very straight at the moment. You can actually put more in there. And again, I think the arms can probably come up a little bit more as well. You want to try and make that a really nice long line of action all the way through, because again, she's the pendulum at the end of a long piece of rope. So you want to really, yeah, I think if you can make it feel like she leans out to one side and then really throws herself into it to make sure she dodges out of the way of the car, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be cool. Like, yeah, and it does feel like we're losing a bit of tension here, because her arms are too low. I feel like they definitely should be pulling an extreme here, because it'll help with your line of action, because you're kind of breaking it here by having this shape, but also it'll just I think that's because she's going outwards whilst he's pushing forwards. That means that in theory the distance between them is getting longer, and therefore the rope is taut. So you know, her arms are therefore going to get pulled up from this position. So I think that's something to look out for. Again, like going back to the motorcycle guy, this motion feels a bit weird. It feels a little bit slidey. The bike kind of feels like it slides through here, but it doesn't look quite like a skid, because there's not enough rotation. Like it's not off the center line enough in one direction. It just kind of feels like it's the whole thing is translating off to one side. Um, so I think if you're going to get into this angle here where he is, you need to translate this back over, because like the wheel should still be in line here basically. And here it feels like they've just kind of slid over. Um, Again, his pose, I think there's too much disconnect between the bike pose and the like here is this is too much. Um, like if you're gonna have him really like jerk over, then the back of the bike really needs to kick out a lot more than it does, and that front wheel needs to maintain its grip, and the back end can come kind of kick out, and so that you get that sense that it's skidding rather than just sort of sliding across the surface with no friction. I mean, I wrote down like it's like everything is very erratic through here, which is cool. And she kind of stabilizes a little bit here. She it feels like she recovers very quickly from this. I kind of feel like it needs a bit more time. Like she hasn't even finished doing this action, getting thrown, basically putting all her effort into kind of spinning out here. Like she doesn't have time to recover from that. Like that transition from here to here is too quick. Like you need to give her another beat of time to kind of recompose herself, because then she suddenly, because obviously you've got it kind of imitating game camera and stuff, which is cool, like it works really well, but like she recovers far too fast. Like she suddenly goes from being really wild and kind of sort of doing an out of control sort of dodge thing, and then you get to suddenly like what what are we, 180, 6 frames later, and she's like rock solid, and she's absolutely knows what she's doing, and she's going for it. So I'd try and maybe add a little bit more time and a little bit more recovery in there, before she starts pulling the gun, because it just feels like it feels a little bit too a bit too much contrasted with all the crazy action that happens before it. She's like boom, right? Just like, well, everything's crazy, everything's crazy. It's like, okay, I'm drawing a gun, right? I am good to go. So yeah, I would want to see a bit more kind of reaction to this. I mean, you could even push this further and have her be almost, almost on her back, and really kind of try and maintain some of these shapes and lines of action through here. That is a really hideous drawing. I do apologise. I know it's difficult, especially it's difficult in 3D, but like this grip needs sorting out. Like, and I know why it happens, because it happens so much in games. Like because so often rigs don't have the ability to kind of squash the hand and do nice like finger grips. Whenever you've got like a pole or rope or anything, like people always try and get the hand gripping at right angles, because it's just so much easier, because having something where you've got to grip it, oh god, and this is going to be difficult to draw, where you've got the thumb and hand coming round, and that you get a nice like grip going that way, is really difficult. But like this angle, this here feels like you can really see that the hand is basically perpendicular to the surface of this, and that she's holding the rope like this. But then obviously, because she has to be being pulled, you're really like having to overextend this like weird angle here, which is difficult. And obviously you want to try and be holding it like this instead, so that you can straighten this arm out a lot more, or straighten out the wrist a lot more. And because this is not a great angle here, this pose. That's just a minor little contact thing. Like here, I mean, I guess you're cheating it a little bit here, but that's fine because it goes out of view. But like by doing this, like she must have the rope kind of at her, like it's kind of quite close to her. I mean, she must have biceps like I could only dream of in order to hold that position of her being like she's basically holding all of her weight on, like she can do one-armed pull-ups with the strength that she's displaying there in her arm. So I would definitely see about trying to extend this arm. Oh my god. Just take your time with the drawing. Like extend this arm more, and have it grip a little bit further up, so that and it also means you get a nicer line of action through here as well. Because yeah, at the moment she's really strong. Generally, like this bit's okay. Let's see. Like it's okay to break the elbow here. That's good. I feel like do a bit of funky business with the constraints here. I mean, try and match those, because there's a pop in the gun there. But it's not that crucial, and I'd be interested to see it. I don't know whether it would work and whether the rig would hold up, but maybe try having the gun come out a little bit rather than go even further backwards. Maybe have it try coming up more, and that she actually brings it up this way. That drawing is bad. I mean, the shoulder might not be able to handle it. The shoulder on the rig might actually give up, but potentially like come up more first and round rather than backwards. But I do like the curves that you're getting in the, like this is great, breaking the arm there. Like this is all good. I think she extends a little bit too early. I think I'd like it to. I think I'd probably have it stay, because it requires a lot of effort to get her shoulder off the ground and to have her arm suspended. So actually, humans will try and be as efficient as possible. So actually, I'd probably see if I could get the arm coming round this way a little bit more, and more. Like you could even, yeah, and have it come around that way instead, and actually then come up into the pose rather than over the top. Because like she does actually end up like, because her, if you track the position, like it comes around, and then it actually comes, so it comes this way around, and then it actually does do a little dip. Actually, you could probably just have it come round and up instead. And you obviously make sure you get some nice oh my word, you get some nice drag on the wrist. You know, so you get the gun coming kind of this way. You've got some here, which is nice. That is a really bad drawing. Yeah, and then, you know, probably not as much as that, but yeah, like that's a really awful drawing. But yeah, like maybe come around that way because it feels. I mean, I like the arc as it comes over the top here. I do really like that, but it might just be this pose here where it comes down again and then back up that feels a bit odd. So I mean, I don't like it. It kind of pops here, like in a way that like it should either come from behind and go round and up, or it should come round and over the top and down. But you've kind of blended the two, which in theory makes a nice curve, but there's too much change over these last 3 frames. It feels too much. Okay, so let's move on. So this is fine. I would I don't know whether this feels weird that this flame effect is here. I'm trying to think how it actually works out of a gun. Like it feels it's a little bit visually distracting actually to because there are 2 or 3 shots where the flame is kind of up and coming out, which makes it feel like there's also bullets going off this way. I'd just be wary about that. I don't know whether it's worth maybe just having it work over a frame, or whether you kind of try and hold it in space a bit rather than have it attached to the front of the gun. The first one feels okay, like, but I don't know why that one feels better. I think maybe it's just the recoil is less erratic. Yeah, it might just be because the recoil is less erratic. But this one becomes really noticeable here. Anyway, that's a minor detail. So so I mean the shooting is okay. That's fine. It feels a little bit poppy, which may also go towards explaining why the flash kind of feels a bit odd, but otherwise I think she's okay. So the big thing I wanted to talk about was the reaction here to the explode, like to the crash itself. Is everything making sense so far? By the way, just let me know. So there's a few, like, again on first watch, like it feels pretty good. Like it feels like, why is that sticking? It feels like it's working. And then but when you start to frame through it, it does seem like there's a couple of kind of few sort of weird physical things. Thought also it might be quite nice, and I mean I don't know whether you'd be able to do it, or whether you even think it's a good idea. But like when she starts firing, it might be cool if he then like kind of turned and had a little look to see what exactly is happening. Just be like, I do not like this. Why are you trying to have him kind of like drop his arm and turn to see what's going on? and be very sad that you're shooting at him. But I mean, it happens so fast, it might not happen. Again, like you've got a little bit of kind of wobble here, which is kind of setting up for the explosion. But it feels a little bit kind of again a little bit incidental, like there's two. I mean, I do not understand bike physics, so but I mean, I definitely on this explosion frame, I'd definitely keep that front wheel down on the ground because it feels super light when it just pings up like that. It might be the camera. Like it feels like the bike at this frame. Where is it? Yeah, like bike gets to here and then stops dead in space, like it's hit ultimate. There's ultimate friction here on this front wheel. Like it just feels like it gets stuck in the air. Now I know obviously you want to try and create space and distance between the two objects, but it feels kind of weird. And also the I feel like the bike needs to, for this to work, the bike needs to have touched down again in order for it to feel like it's, you know, getting friction from the floor that then causes it to not travel as far as him, because obviously he's only got air resistance slowing him down. Um, and if you the bike, yeah, it feels like it stops in midair. It feels like because it really kicks up, and then the back end is really going far this way, and then suddenly it kind of gets to a point and it sort of stops, and the energy kind of transfers off to the left instead, and it feels like maybe instead of that the bike should have carried on going over the top. Like it kind of comes around to the left, which I could think if you want it to go around to the left, like you've got it, you need to have the bike. This back wheel needs to be over here somewhere, and that you create a nice disconnect between the wheel going forwards and then this bit getting kicked out to the side. Because I think this motion can work, but it's getting an input, like it feels like it's getting an impetus from here to push it down and round, and it should be going at the very least up and round, coming round this way, or straight over the top of itself. Um, it just feels a little bit confused. Um, and then it speeds once it's ironically once it's hit the ground and re-establishing friction, it speeds up between here and here. Like it actually ends up going faster along the floor. So I just track it, not probably not in camera actually, just to get the like I'd do it just in the perspective viewport, and like it yeah it's going okay, it's going okay. I mean obviously minus the few things I pointed out there, but yeah, it actually speeds up when it hits the floor, which is kind of odd. Um, as I say, the overall effect is good, but when you stop to kind of really assess it, it feels a little bit, yeah, like it kind of skids quite quickly back into view. So last thing before we go to look at the other shot, I want to talk about the physics on this guy. There's again, much like the bike, right? So he gets thrown up here, which is fine. I would maybe see about, I don't know whether it'll work, but maybe see about keeping that those legs a bit straighter for a bit longer to really feel like he's well. I mean, even here you might even be able to try and create a nicer curve through there, because that elbow and shoulder is a little bit like this little dip in here. You could try and see if you can get just through the perspective, see if you can get a straighter arc through there. Yeah, you could probably even keep the legs a little bit straighter through here. But yeah, like so, he gets thrown off here, and here it feels like he's moving kind of this way, or perhaps slightly more upwards and this way. That's what it feels like he's doing. Then he suddenly goes up, like rather than following this path that's kind of more forwards than up, he suddenly ends up shooting up this way. Then that kind of stops when he gets up to here. And then suddenly we've got, even though he's been flung forwards, because as we've discussed, the bike hasn't started turning to the left yet. I mean, I know you've got it turning to the left eventually, but it hasn't actually started doing that yet. And then he is here, and then his hips suddenly start spinning this way. And then they're spinning this way, and they're going. Let me just try and work out what's happening. Right, so they then continue to turn around this way, coming from over here. And then at this point, they actually start turning back the other way. It gets up to here, and then they suddenly rotate. They start going back this way instead, which when I couldn't put my finger on it when I was watching it at full speed, and then I was like, let me just actually check what's going on here. Yeah, it's because they basically like they go up, then they suddenly start turning left, and then it gets to a certain point, and then they suddenly start spinning right. And I think you could clean. I think you could sort all of that out. I don't think actually that you want, if you take out this left turn on the hips. So basically from here all the way to about here. If you take that out and just have him go up and then continue to spin round this way, it will look much better. Because you also start to get like kind of slightly odd silhouettes here as well. Like because this is cool. Like I like this. Again, I'd probably, what are his arms doing? I was so distracted by his hips that I feel like his arm could be more over here, right? But yeah, I'd try and avoid having those hips rotate around the wrong way. Because you can actually still have him being flung kind of this way. Sorry, let's see where his hip's going to be. Start I'll start with the hips, and like, you know, he could be like this, and then his legs can be, you know, kind of coming off this way, actually. Because his legs kind of feel a little bit weightless as well, because they kind of come up and then they kind of dip down and come up again, as all part of that kind of weird twist. Actually, you could just hold the, you know, you go from like this, like try and think about this shape and this pose, and kind of maintain it through here. Like, because here it kind of just feels like his hips become the pinning point that everything else leads off. But actually, if you maintain that pose where he's still kind of getting flung this way, you know, it should generally read a bit better. Yeah, and like stuff like this is cool. Like, again, you can probably like put a bit more. Yeah, but I like this leg. That stuff's cool. And then for the landing, this bit's okay. I think you could probably hold some of these poses, maybe try and hold them a little bit longer, because this is nice. Like, this is a cool shape you've got going on here. Probably try and drop that knee a little bit so that you kind of get this bit instead. I'd probably try and straighten out these legs a little bit more again, because, you know, if this is, you know, this is chest and hips are the center of mass, and the other bits are getting dragged, right? So, you know, try and use that. Like, this is where all the weight and mass is coming from. Pose is a little bit crazy. Again, like, see if you can get some nicer kind of, because you had a nice curve in that other one. So, like, see if you can try and make those shapes a little bit more pleasing. Again, like, you can break the elbow here, like, because, you know, if this is the mass and it's getting flung around this way, then obviously all of this stuff is getting dragged, and this is getting pulled this way. So, like, and then this leg will be coming this way, I guess. And this one, that leg would be. I think this leg here probably actually do something quite interesting where it's going like this way. Maybe it might be really mad, and then, yeah, I don't know. You might have to do something mad with the knee there, but. So when you were doing the blocking for the fall, you let the end poses dictate how he'd be thrown. Okay, well, so, and I assume you mean from like here, because it feels. I assume you mean from about here, because it definitely feels like it feels a little bit detached, this end bit, because it's quite a nice motion. There are some issues that I want to talk about, but yeah, it definitely feels disconnected from what you've got going on here. Yeah. I can tell, because he basically gets up to this point, and then again the physics kind of go a little bit crazy, where he suddenly slides from. Because it almost works. Like, he gets to here, and then suddenly everything starts swinging this way again. Like, the weight is suddenly now in his feet. yeah, and then suddenly his upper body is kind of going back the other way. So I think spending a bit more time in blocking probably would have saved you a little bit of trouble there. Or like, I mean, or you just kind of block it through as you're doing your blocking. Don't skip to the end and just actually do it pose. Go pose to pose and just keep doing it until he comes into some kind of nice thing. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's a disconnect between the way he kind of lands here and then he suddenly spins out the other way. And I mean, it kind of works, but there's just this transition between sort of here and here needs a bit of, and this pose here needs a little bit of massaging to kind of make it not feel quite so obvious. But we'll move on. So this pose here, his legs like kind of pop weird, like they pop up and then pop apart and then down, like it. That doesn't quite work. I'd take a look at that because it makes the silhouette really difficult to read because the legs kind of pop up together and then split and kind of go in their separate ways, which is an odd thing. The actual landing and stuff is okay. Like, again, kind of think about your lines of action. Like this knee comes up a little bit high, but like, yeah, plenty of breakages. Like this hand comes around a little bit too close to his bum. Doesn't need to. It can come up here. It's fine. Get thrown over the top. It's not. It feels suddenly very weighty. Like it here. It just kind of stays stuck to his. And then you imagine it's kind of just come over his bum and then just immediately hit to the floor. That suddenly feels a little bit weighty. That arm could come up, and it would feel much nicer. My main issue is actually this end bit here, where he just kind of his shoulders here and his hips are here, and then he just sort of translates over. Like he literally just goes meow. Like it feels really weird. I'd take the translations out there because it doesn't work. There's no reason why this pose here can't just be over here instead. Yeah, I mean, it is a difficult one for sure. I think because you can have them. I kind of feel like if it is ragdoll, even in ragdoll situations, there will often be kind of limits on what the bones can do. To be honest, like I often think like ragdoll stuff tends not to look that good. I mean, I think what you've got does pretty well. Like aside from the kind of slightly odd physics interactions that we've got going on, a lot of the impact stuff works pretty well. And actually, I think it does give it kind of a violent, erratic feeling. But I still my personal preference is like even with my draw overs there, like it feels you still get that sense because what gives it the violentness is even though you've got the lines of action, it's then contrasting them with opposite lines of action. So like we go from here, where do we go? Like so going from here, where he's curved this way, to then being curved, just having the lines of action be contrasted to what they were before is good. So like this arm here has this curve, and then a few frames later we're breaking it and we're going the other way. And we've still got nice line of action, but what gives you the feeling is the change like, and how short that change of time is between those two different actions, and that can do enough to give you the like violent action that I think you're looking for. Like, yeah. So yeah, so I wouldn't. I'm a big fan of lines of action personally, so you'll be it'll be rare that you'll find me arguing against them. But yeah, otherwise, it's a really accomplished shot. I can't imagine like how you went about planning it and doing it, because it's a tough shot. Um, but like on the whole, like it's really successful. So well done. I don't know how I'd go about starting this, to be honest. Um, yes, a lot of planning. Um, yeah, there's just there's just a kind of a few weird like physics things that you can see when he gets thrown up here. He very quickly is going up, then he suddenly goes right, and then he kind of hits a wall here where he just starts going straight down again. Um, yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. So I'm gonna skip over these. I might come back to them if I've got time. I do want to talk about this one, but we'll go straight to this one, because this is the other big shot, and we only have half an hour left. So let's just crack right on. So let's see. So let's just watch it. What did I write down? Generally, it's really good. It feels kind of aggressive and violent, and that's cool. There are kind of a few pose issues, I think. Um, Generally, the monster is really good. It's more the girl that I have issues with. Um, well, let's get into it. And I think I'm gonna look at it mostly from. I mean, I will come to this bit in a bit, but I think mostly I'm going to try and just look at it from the side view, because it's clearer. First thing I would say is you need more frames at the start of this where she's just running before the monster turns up, because basically, obviously, the monster is on screen straight away, and then within 10 frames, it's on her. And like when I first saw the shot, like it like you kind of miss most of the first. It's only till it's about here that you actually really notice what the hell's going on. Like you need more time, because it's very fast, and also like the speed that he's coming in is incredibly fast as well. So, but let's focus on the girl first. So this is way too compressed. I mean, it's good to get compression, but her neck feels bad, and this pose does not feel like super dynamic or anything. Like it just kind of feels a little bit like hunched and a little bit too kind of crushed, and it actually stays that way until, I mean, almost here somewhere. And actually, like, her spine is kind of doing okay here, but this feels really kind of there's a lot of curvature here that feels kind of awkward. And there's also, I would argue there's not enough frames to have her look like, because I can see she's trying to look behind her to see what's coming, but I don't think you have enough frames to do that. So I think if you put in more frames before, like where she's just running, and then have the monster show up, then you're buying yourself a bit more time to put a head turn in. But as it stands, I don't think, certainly not, and have her head turned back forwards again in that time. If she has, if she has her head turning, and she maintains that as it contacts, and then you kind of have it get around here somewhere, then maybe you can do it. But it doesn't feel like you've got enough frames to get a worthwhile head turn in. I mean, certainly it happens within the first like 5 frames or something, so there's no way anybody's going to see it anyway. But that's obviously related to the thing I was talking to you about before. Um, you need to check some of your spine, as I say, it was crushed here, and like this should be this should actually be going, I think, the other way, probably a little bit more. But this is very extreme. Like, it feels a little bit like you're breaking her model a bit too much, and that is actually a recurring thing. This arm feels a little bit too close. Like it's not enough negative space, and like it feels like it's here, like under her chin or something. You also got this little like bent wrist bit here, which you don't really need. I mean, it's a difficult one because obviously they are two people that are quite similarly flesh toned. Um, I don't know. I wanted to say like wanted to try and break up these silhouettes a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure how you would. I wonder whether rather than have the monster like put his legs kind of around, whether actually you just, because like they get around and they're kind of wrapped around her here, but then and this is part of what I was going to say later anyway, like he's kind of pushing off here, but his feet need to be the other side of this. And I wondered whether maybe like his feet should be against her back or against her bum. And I wondered whether maybe just in order to make that silhouette a little, like you could have this collision frame here where like they are kind of mushed together, but I would maybe see about getting, it might be really difficult to make it look right, but getting his knee up here, and then when you get to like around here, like his bum can be a little bit further away, and he's just, you know, he's kind of on her like this, so that you've got a little bit of negative space between her back and where he is, just so that you can kind of read a bit more, because of the way they're coloured and stuff. Like at the moment, if I go 1 frame along, like this, it's very difficult to read like what bit is attached to which person. Like I don't know what this is. That her hand? I think that's her hand, but I'm not sure. Like, and it's, you know, it doesn't, like, it just kind of feel like there's, you know, it feels like it's just a ton of like arms and legs and edges. Like it feels really difficult to see what's happening. So I wondered whether it might be possible to just have him like grab with his legs there instead. Um, and that, so that does tie into what I was going to say here. Like his feet should be up here, basically. Like his legs feel very extended, and it was something that I said to Abid in his critique, when like the legs feel so extended here, it doesn't feel like he can get a lot of leverage, especially because they're on the wrong side of her body. Um, you know, it's like Abid, where the woman's kicking the back of that guy's leg. If it's already extended, then there's no additional kind of space to provide that real pressure and contrast and change in action. Um, Because like here, like you start to like so this is a good pose. Like I mean, other than obviously this foot, like it feels like you can kind of see all of the bits. Like, I think her arm could be fixed a little bit up here, but like there is some negative space at least between here, so it does at least feel like you can see who is who and what's going on. And so like all this stuff is where it's much better. Again, yeah, if you get that leg on the and not have this leg here. It's supposed to be a cross, but like then you know those silhouettes will kind of read a lot better. Let me see. Like this is cool. I feel like I don't know whether this rig is stretchy or not, but I feel like you could hold this for longer and stretch it further. Like this is great, but like it feels like you could you could really like go even more curve, like really make it feel like there's tension on those hands. Now the thing that you have to be careful about here is her neck, because there are a few instances where like her neck is, I don't know if she's supposed to already be dead here before he smashes her onto the ground, because based on this neck pose, she dead. Like this is too extreme. Rather than have the neck twist that way, I would like here is fine, but I would, instead of having this, I would put her face going the other way. So you can still have it extreme, but just have her face being pulled backwards this way, and then maintain that, you know, that line of action through her face, and then through her body, because that is, yeah, that just feels super awkward. And you definitely get it like here, like this is too much. Like if her head was rotated more this way and pulled backwards, like and I mean like into camera pulled backwards, then fine. But that's yeah, that's too much. She also, I hadn't noticed before actually, but she is so low here. Holy shit! There is no way she is not falling over from that position. Way too low. Like she basically needs to go straight on to the floor, like from there. Like unless, like, certainly not, and place her foot here. Like if you're gonna do that, she needs to basically like go from here in a couple of frames to having a foot down like here somewhere. I would, I mean, to be honest, I'd like it feels too low. Like she's broken her foot there. Like her back feels really broken. Her neck is like super upright and off to one side. Like this pose for her doesn't is not working. Um, I did not even see that before, but that is, yeah, that's way too low. Because she does like a little step here, like she gets her foot down quite quickly to try and get her foot underneath and stay balanced, which is nice. But it also needs to happen here, because the fact that her foot continues to travel forward quite so much and then land is a problem. She feels quite off balance here. I think generally my notes for this one are that the monster feels good and she feels less good. There's quite a few, like it's a challenging shot that you've done, but like there's quite a few issues with her, and not so much with the like the monster generally is good. Um, that knee comes, that leg comes up way too fast. Should still be down here somewhere. Um, it shouldn't follow through until that knee hits the floor. Then that leg should swing through quite fast. Um, as it is, it's coming through way too early. Um, I also have some issues with the like I like the idea here where he picks her head up, but like the fact that she slides along the floor here is a problem because she slides and that makes him feel quite strong, but it makes her feel like she is frictionless, and it's compounded by. I mean, this arguably is a bit too extreme based on her like on her on her back pose. Like that feels too straight. Like that probably needs a bit more curvature to it. Um, but also it's sorry, it's compounded by when he bonks her back down. She I mean, there's some nice impact there, but like everything slides back this way. Like so again, like on especially on this last one, like he pulls her up and she kind of gets dragged this way, but then on the way down, she just kind of slides back. Like the floor has no friction whatsoever. Now either he needs to move forward slightly so that when he's bashing her head, he comes up and then she actually impacts here. So he like gets up and then he's actually going forward with the last smash, or or you need to do something else with the spine, or like not maybe not come up so high or something, but like it makes her feel a bit too light. Um, yeah, it makes her feel a bit too light. I I didn't notice the blood splat the first few times I watched it, and I only noticed it later. Um, it's okay, but as it stands, it doesn't read. Now, it might feel super violent to have her like smash her head, and like there's no reason why it should just only last one frame or two frames. So I would try and determine how violent you want it to look, and then if you're okay with it being violent, then keep some of that behind because it disappearing just feels weird and like you don't even notice it. If you just want it to feel like a pop, like an impact frame, then fine, but don't. I don't know whether it should. If it's going to be like an impact frame, then it needs to be on more so that you can see it and then disappear. And it probably shouldn't kind of decrease in size. I feel like it should maybe just be. Sorry, I've just drawn on that frame. Like it should maybe like start here in the same shape as that one, and then maybe fall away after that. Um, right, we've got 20 minutes left. So I've just drawn on that again. Where did I draw on that? Maybe I didn't draw on it. Fine. Like, yeah, like generally I really like the monster. I think that works really well, but yeah, the girl kind of feels really sort of flimsy and a bit awkward. Like this kind of pull suggestion is kind of nice. Like her hips kind of do this weird sort of shimmy. She's she just feels off balance a lot of the time. Like she has a very wide gait in in a lot of the poses. Like she's she's very wide here. Now I know she's running at like full speed, but it just makes her because she's such a skinny model as well. Like it makes her feel kind of gangly. Um, Again, I'd check your spacing on her hips. I'd probably go from here straight to here, maybe. Just maybe even get rid of that frame. Um, I would also like to say that the monster should like because this pose feels good, and I said you can amp it up more, but you should maintain it through here as well. So like hold on to it for a little bit longer because it is a good pose. So like try and hold it a bit more if you can. Don't be so keen to get these legs out of pose, and then because what you can do is if you track his head or the top of his weird spiny thing, um, you know that can as that's kind of tracking backwards and starting to rotate, like it feels like he stops a little bit too early. Like he could actually come down over here somewhere. But I try and hold on to those, try and hold on to that kind of horizontal pose for more, and then you have his head kind of as his head tracks over this way, like keep that as it is, and like so it's you know it's what are we doing? You know, it starts to space closer and closer as it gets down here, and then and the body can kind of catch up. So like if you've got stretch controls on the character, make his body stretch here, and then have the so like his head is tracking, his head is pulled and then it's tracking, and it's coming to a stop, and then underneath the legs can be like trying to think about how I can actually demonstrate this. Um, yeah, you can over quite a short space of time you can have the legs and stuff compress and catch up afterwards, um, and then and get underneath quite quickly, so that you know you've got that time to really really feel this stretch pose here, like really accentuate that. Like you're already losing some power by bending the legs here. Whereas if that was if you know if that was a straight line, or not straight, but if that had a nice like curve to the legs, um, and you really push that, that will feel really powerful, like much more powerful. And then you've got time to have the legs catch up underneath and get into a position where they're ready to catch him again. Um, so and it just gives you a little bit of offset between what the upper body and bottom half are doing. And like if you go too far, it'll just feel like they're detached. But if you get it just right, it'll feel like there's a lot of kind of nice overlap between the head coming back, the body kind of having to then, or the like legs catching up, and then actually overtaking, and then the top half settling on top. You can really accentuate that and make that quite nice. This jump is okay. Again, I don't know what this back arm feels like it's not really doing anything. It's back here, which is okay. Like, again, accentuate that stuff if you want. Like, hold that for longer. And again, yeah, you can do the same. So like when you get to here, you could actually be like, his body could actually be this way instead. And so this, in fact, yeah, this is a good, this is a good example of what I was just saying about the other thing. You can have the head and the top of the head leading the action until you get to sort of the midway point, which is kind of around here. So you have the spacing be quite extreme, and then get a little bit like not quite like that, but you have the spacing get a little bit closer as you get to the top. And then have it small again and get bigger as you get in. And then underneath you've got the legs contrasting where they're getting left behind even further, and then actually accelerating through underneath so that they get there before the upper body. And that way, so you drag the body behind a little bit more, and then as it's coming through, as you start getting to here, you actually have it switch, and then again you get that contrast between the shapes, something like that. I mean, those drawings are bad, but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to very, very, very quickly, because I know we've only got 10 minutes left. I'm going to very, very, very quickly talk about a couple more things here. So like from this angle, the shot does not work as well. Like again, talking about silhouettes, like things feel kind of awkward and like a few weird, it's like some quite awkward poses. Okay, yeah, no worries. I may just carry on. But yeah, like some of the I'm not sure if I'd show it from this angle because I don't think it works as much. And I mean, obviously, if you're going to be doing games, animations, and things, then you obviously need to try and make it work from as many angles as possible. But that's something to consider. Like this leg is really extreme, but a little bit too much so. And also you have the eye animate death bounce, which I talked about in the previous critique. Like it feels too light. I don't like the way that they teach that. Everybody does it. Yeah, overall pretty good. Especially from the side, like that's better. You can see better what's going on. You can clean up a few of the silhouettes and stuff, and that will be great. I wouldn't bother showing it from this angle because I don't think it's as successful. You can't see what's happening, and the posing doesn't work as well. So this one, I'm just going to read off my. I do know that you have to shoot off, so if you do have to go, then that's fine, and I will just carry on, and you can watch the rest after. But I will very quickly talk about this one. In fact, there's no real need for me to rush. So if you need to go, you just go, and then you can watch on catch up afterwards. And I'll just keep waffling on as I want to do. Let's pop that on there. But no, I hope you have found it useful. If you have any more questions, you can just shoot me a message and I'll respond. So this run is okay. It's not as successful as some of the other bits in the reel. Mostly this gun is a problem, or like this arm is an issue. It feels very much like you're using IK controls here, and I certainly for things where you're not touching stuff, I would avoid using that. And it's kind of okay from the side, but like you don't have proper overlap here. Like this kind of feels stiff. Like you don't have the drag. Like it hits here, and then it kind of just, you get down to the bottom, and then it just kind of comes up like this. And that's like a dead giveaway of like doing stuff with IK, or just perhaps if you're doing it in FK, like some very slightly weirdly offset rotation. I'd 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 put it in FK because you can just nurse those massage those curves a lot better. But it just like it feels like it hits a wall at the bottom here. And then it feels like it hits a, it doesn't feel like it hits one when it gets to the top. It just, the path is kind of weird and a little bit linear. Yeah. Like if you watch the, like it you know, everything should be moving in curves, but like this feels like it just goes up in kind of a straight-ish sort of line. And coming down is better. Like you're starting to get that sense of the curve coming this way, and then it hits that wall, and then it goes back up in a straight line. So you're actually ending up with a cycle that looks kind of like this. I mean, I'd have to track it properly, but it's not even as extreme. It's not even as extreme a curve as that. It's actually more kind of like this. It feels very straight. And then actually, once the camera rotates around, it becomes all the more issueful, because you actually, like, it goes kind of like this. Like, yeah, it's a that also means because you're doing it in IK, you get like elbow pops. Like I think I'd go back and rework that arm entirely. Like the rest of the motion is okay. I feel like she's a little bit too, because she's not doing like full extension steps. Like her leg is not straight here, which is fine if she's doing like a little jog. But I can't tell if she's. It feels like maybe she's a bit too up and maybe a bit too up and down for the speed. Like she's going faster than a jog, but the style and the way she's moving feels like a jog, but it feels like she's moving too quickly. So either if you're going to maintain the speed, then that leg needs to straighten out, and that will feel. I think that will feel a bit better. I'd put a little bit more drag on the feet. Yeah, just let me know when you if and when you need to head off. That's fine. I'll just keep going. I'd put a little, like, again, based on the speed, I'd probably have her like drag a little bit more, and then obviously start to reverse it on the way around, because she feels a little bit. It feels like she's moving a bit too quickly. I'd maybe try slowing it down, seeing if that works. Seeing if that works slightly better. But yeah, generally it's fine. I'd potentially I'd scrap that arm and do it in FK and really track the wrist and also the end of the gun. Just parent a locator on there and just make sure that you're actually getting nice arcs up and down. so that it's, you know, you're getting that rather than straight line between the two. But otherwise it's okay. The head is also a little bit still. You need not a lot, but just a little bit more overlap on the head. Like it just needs a little bit of hardly anything, because if you make it too much, it won't be appropriate for the run. But it's very still. Like her nose kind of just translates up and down. It doesn't feel like. Yeah, her nose basically just does this. It doesn't feel like it. The nose is kind of catching up. And you don't want too much, because otherwise she looks like a doll. But just a little bit. But yeah, that's fine. Otherwise it's pretty good. I'd rework that arm. Yep. No, that's no worries. Yeah, you go do what you need to do. I'll probably plug away at this for another like 15 minutes or so, and then you can watch it after. I'll send you the links and stuff so you can take a look. But cool, thank you very much for joining me. I hope that was useful, and have a nice day at work, or whatever it is that you're going to do now. I don't know if you're working. Just enjoy your day. I'll just be here doing this. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna carry on and pretend like he's not here anymore. This is where we get really mean. No, I'm joking. I'm just gonna keep talking and pretend like he is here, and that he's just ignoring me. So again, this one. Okay, enjoy your work. Yeah. Okay. What do I write down here? So generally it's okay. The head is very still again. I don't know where. Okay, if you just draw on stuff while it's playing, it doesn't save it. That's good. Exactly the same as in the last shot. This nose just goes up and down, and it needs to feel a little bit more like it's just that little bit of action that will help make it feel a little bit more alive. Same with the shoulders as well. Actually, they stay very, very. Like I feel like they could be a little bit more like back and forth rotation as she's kind of stepping. A little bit more here, and just a little bit more overlap with the on the spine, because the spine feels a little bit stiff, or it feels like it like just kind of hits a point every now and again. It doesn't feel quite as smooth as it should. So I feel like the kind of point up here needs to kind of curve that spine and extend a little bit, like. And yeah, as I say, put a little bit more, just a tiny bit more rotation in the shoulders, because you want it to feel like, I mean, depending on what feel you're going for, obviously she's kind of sneaking and stalking, but like, you know, you could actually, if you wanted to, like, I mean, this is kind of a bit, might be a bit OTT, but you could actually kind of try and get a bit of like shoulder roll in, almost to like imitate like a panther or some kind of stalking cat. That might be a kind of cool little touch. Like obviously they have very different shoulders, because they, you know, there's a kind of rolling whenever they move, but you could kind of do a little bit just to get that sensation, just with a little bit of kind of forward and backwards. I would have these hips rotate forward a little bit more when she's stepping forward with this leg. Again, the rotation on the hips feels a little bit muted. I just feel like they could come forward a bit. Um, just a tiny bit more on specifically on that specifically on her left leg coming forward. It could just lead a little bit more here. Just a bit more. Generally, everything else is okay, I think. Oh, the other thing I wrote was, yeah, the only other thing was this hand gets very close to the knee. Like, and it's not a problem, like, but it feels a bit too close. Like, it feels kind of unnatural that you would ever do that. It, it kind of feels like the hand would start to move out of the way almost, or something like it. I'd have to actually try it properly, which I can't do because I'm obviously attached to my PC, but and also this room is extremely small, so it would, yeah, it just feels too close. Like it doesn't, it feels like it might just be that the arm doesn't swing enough, or that the offset's not quite right. So it feels like when it's here, the hand should already be starting to move away a little bit and reaching it, because it's like its extreme forward is kind of, I mean, it's very subtle, but its extreme forward is kind of here somewhere, but it should happen a little bit sooner. Like I feel like the timing between the general arm position and its arc moving forwards and backwards is just in slightly the wrong sync. Hello, King Dog. Um, it feels like the back and forth of the hand is slightly in weird timing with the backwards and forwards of the knee, like they're out of sync, so that they actually come together rather than like one being slightly ahead of the other, so that they don't get as close as they do here. I hope that makes sense. That was not hugely clear, but I know what I mean. So yeah, if that isn't clear, then just give me a shout. Otherwise, that that is reasonably successful, I think. Just the knee popping is not. I think that pops. Can't tell if there's like it might just be a frame skip because it's only one loop. So just double check the tracking on the knees, just to make sure that they're not popping around. Okay, and then last, yeah, I've done all that. Right, okay. So I'm going to very quickly talk about, in the last sort of 10 minutes or so, talk about this last shot. Because there were things in this one I did want to talk about, and so I don't want to skip out on that. So King Dog has a question. So question, tell me how you feel about. Sorry. I just started my degree in visual effects and animation at community college. Are there ways to get a sort of entry-level job in the business? Or is it strictly based on a good portfolio later in my career? I mean, well, later on in your career, like your career can't really exist until you've actually got that entry-level job in the first place. So there's a slight contradiction there, but no, I mean, plenty of places will be looking for juniors at various points. I would say, depending on what your how much, because like when I went to university, um, it has animation in the title, but they didn't actually really teach you a lot of actual animation. So anything that I kind of learnt, like they taught loads of stuff around visual effects and making CG, but the actual kind of core principles of animation, it was not really covered, not properly anyway. So anything I kind of learnt was mostly myself and the Animator Survival Kit and talking to other people on my course that were interested in animation. Um, I mean the amount of the amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Um, uh, the amount of resources that you have available to you now is 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 unbelievable compared to, I mean, even 10 years ago. Um, I mean, Twitter didn't exist 10 years ago, right? So you couldn't, it was not easy to talk to people in industry and ask questions and, do things like this. Um, uh, I would say ultimately, Showreel is always going to be the way in. Like, it's very rare for you to get an entry level job without a showreel. I mean, I had a showreel when I finished uni. Um, it wasn't a great showreel, but it was a showreel, and it showed some promise, even though it was not fantastic. Like the I would say that probably the entry level stuff now um, is 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 obviously as a way higher standard than it was when I started. Um, like my showreel was not fantastic by any means, but they were looking for juniors, and I happened to go to Sony Cambridge, who had a good relationship with my university, and a lot of former students went to that studio and stayed there for a long time. So there was already a rapport there where they understood that if you were coming off my course, that you were going to be at least halfway competent or good. Um, uh, yeah, you will need a showreel. Nobody is going to give you an entry level job without a showreel, not in animation anyway. So you are going to have to put some work in up front. But yeah, as I say, you have access to so much more, so many more resources that can help you improve and get there that it should be okay. But like, I think a lot of people, it was something I'd read on Twitter the other day actually. Like, a lot of people um, kind of think that if they've been rejected, it's because they're not any good. Um, but a lot of the time, it's actually just you know what what you provide right now is not necessarily what is needed for the project. Like, game studios very rarely, occasionally they will be like looking like, okay, right, we need a junior because obviously we don't have enough junior level members of staff, so we need to get some new blood in and kind of build them up. But a lot of the time, it's very project dependent, so you can have a lot of situations where, like, you can apply for things and they'll be like, I'm sorry, like, but not right now because what we need for X project is somebody who already knows how you know node-based animation systems work and blah blah blah, and like they genuinely may not have time or resources to actually train you up on those things. So don't try not to be disheartened if you don't get a particular job straight away. It just may be that what you offer right now is not exactly the thing that best suits the particular project, because obviously the project kind of typically will always come first. So yeah, it's kind of a thing where you just keep plugging away until and sometimes it is just timing, and that feels bad that should be the case, but unfortunately, like, that is the nature of work. Like, not everybody can just give you a job because you know, they feel like you should have a job. Like it's unfortunate, but also kind of the way of things. Um, so, but like talking to people and like, you know, getting your work out there and putting it in front of people and uh, getting people to critique and give feedback, and then, you know, taking that on board and listening and then actually, like, you know, improving based on the stuff that they say, like, is really the best way. Uh, I mean, if you're able to do a course, or, you know, whether that's a university or college course, or, you know, one of the online courses, like, if you're able to do them, great. I mean, once I'd been at Sony for a few years, and I kind of felt like I wasn't really actually. I felt like I'd kind of been dropped in the deep end because I hadn't properly been taught animation when I started, and I felt really kind of really felt out of my depth. And I said, look, I I'd really appreciate if we could maybe, like, get me some additional training and stuff. And so actually I worked out a deal with them to help them, or like get them to help me sort of pay for quite a bit of animation mentor. Um, and you know, and then I get like proper one, like full on animation training and stuff. So you know, there's lots of different avenues. Like, it is difficult, especially if money is tight. But there are different things. But mostly just talking to people and getting feedback and asking people and trying to put your stuff in front of people's eyes is the way to go. And practicing. I'm massively out of practice, to be honest. And I'm only just in the past few months kind of getting back in. But practicing and keeping that going and keeping those skills going is really crucial. Right, I've waffled on for 10 minutes, which I did not mean to do. Okay. Yeah, no worries. So I liked this, but there were a few like weird little bits. So from the front, like it looks pretty good. Just gonna look at it from one and then the other, even though it's gonna be probably a bit awkward. Like, she's quite light on her feet, which is fine, but it feels a little bit too light just here with this little push. The toe doesn't seat properly. So like, she steps here, but then over the next few frames the foot kind of just sort of slides, and it feels like it's kind of sliding along the floor. And it makes it feel a little bit too light, like she wasn't, because she's still driving up here with her hips. It it doesn't feel like she's managed to she's not got anywhere to generate this energy from, because this is not contacting properly. So I just hold that foot in that spot. So just move it over a bit. I just hold that foot in that spot for a little bit longer. I'd also, this feels too straight. So you either need to extend the toe up and put a slight break in the knee or something, but like, it pops badly from here to here and then pops forward again. And that's an issue. So either, yeah, if you bring that toe forward, you'll probably get a little bit more bend in the leg here. And then you'll probably find that it'll feel less poppy. I mean, I still think that's too much bend here. I'll probably try and extend this leg, or like keep this leg following behind a little bit more so that it just feels a little bit less erratic. Because it can still come through around this way after that. That's fine. I'd probably also maybe bend the toes a little bit here. So that feels too light that she's stopping on point. I don't. This foot also feels like, well, A, that's too sharp an angle based on the fact that her leg is still kind of back a bit. I would have I'd have that foot actually lead a bit more, so I'd actually have that coming this way instead. Just so that it's not, it feels too far back throughout this whole section. Like she's not actually gonna, she should be prepping for it a lot sooner. So yeah, this is a problem, but yeah, her leg should be kind of this way instead. Maybe not like that, but well, she lands here, so yeah, that's fine. You know what I mean anyway, like that, extend that leg out earlier. That's all I mean. Yeah, watch for that leg pop. Again, IK, I can see your IK arms. This, like this compresses here, like really unnaturally, and then starts to expand again, and expand again. You can just really feel that straight line. Like it feels really, it feels really unnatural. Like when you get to here, like that arm should actually, like again, in fact it does it again. Oh man, I didn't even notice that. Like here, here, then it actually extends again in a kind of straight line and then locks out, which is a problem. Like this, like that as it comes, like it. I know what you're going for. Sorry, just suddenly distracted by that wrist. I know what you're going for here, and like that feels, in theory, feels good as it comes around, but like at the moment the arm kind of extends like just in a straight line, but actually as it extends that last time it should come round and then come up, but actually what you do is you just do another kind of slightly trombone-y, like that would be so much nicer if like if this was on a better arc rather than just moving in a straight line, but here, like you've got that overlap, like you start to do it, and you got the straight line here, but then you because it's IK, you then compress up again. But actually, this should just be coming down, come down, come down, and actually like you end up having the bend here. But actually, like that should have happened down here somewhere. That's not great drawing, to be fair, but I hope you understand what I mean. But like, just track the path of that. I mean, it doesn't help that I've got a ton of different lines on here, but just track that wrist. Like that should straighten out. I'm just going to get rid of these so I can show more clearly what I mean. So like that's straight there, and that's great. That's, you know, but that should follow, that should start to follow through, and this hand should be dragging and dragging, and then coming around this way. Whoops, wrong button. And it will feel much better. Drag, 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 and then start to break. Keep pressing the wrong button. Yeah, see, that's what you want. I mean, to be honest, I'm quite amazed that actually sort of works. Yeah, well, that's actually there's some animation there, ladies and gentlemen. I've actually done some animation. It's incredible. Yeah, like it should just flick through, and that'll feel way better. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So yes, that would be good, and then what did I write down? So the IK arm is approach. Yeah. So the other bit of the IK problem is, and you don't see it so much in here, or it's not an issue, but you do see it in the next shot when you view it from the other angle. And it's this. Again, it's this IK arm. You get up to here, and then it just kind of translates. Just kind of goes from here, and it just sort of, the rest of her body kind of comes down. But it just kind of pushes this way, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like either she uses this hand here to be part of the stopping, like this hand here, and she uses, you know, she puts the gun at an angle against the edge of this thing as she comes in to help her stop. So either that, and so she like actually uses it as part of the stopping mechanism, and then this whole gun is kind of over here instead. And so after, in the previous frames, after she's like, you know, used the gun as the stop, then it kind of slides down instead. That's not quite right. It goes down here, and so and then it comes down to a pose where, you know, the gun's over here. I mean, you probably need to bring her body in a little bit closer because she's quite far away from here. So you either do that, and then as it when it gets from here, it can slide down and follow that curve into the position that it gets to down here, or so it either does that and then comes round, or it stays this side of her head instead. You know, it stays over here instead. I mean, that's not amazing, obviously, but you could probably just do it like this. So and you keep it that side, and then you have it arc down this way into this position from here. So it's come down this, yeah, it's come down this way into this position here. One of the two, but not both. I think this is something I hadn't noticed either. This you need to track this foot because it gets over here quite quickly. and then it sort of just goes straight down. And it's part of the kind of weight issues of her doing the come up and twisting on this foot. This foot actually looks much better in this angle than the other one. Like, it comes down a little bit too softly. It needs to be touching here on this frame, I think. It needs to already be on the floor. At least here, if not, well, if not here, then here. At the very least, it should already be contacting, because she comes in to stop too quickly. Like, she doesn't have time for her thighs to kind of engage and slow her hips down here. And then I think the only other thing that I had to say, yeah, too much IK arm. Avoid it if they're not touching anything. Avoid. Personally, I prefer to avoid it. This needs to drag more. This should be still touching, I think. And then this. Ooh, another little cheeky bit. You don't have a frame where the foot is flat on the floor. You've got here and you've got here. You need one more frame in here, sir, where this foot, well, basically this frame here, this foot needs to be on the floor. It's horrible. That just needs to be flat. I mean, you could maybe have a little bit of toe roll if you really wanted to, but that should just be flat. But yeah, the main other issue I had was this hand here. So the contact stuff is kind of okay. I feel like at the moment you've got a lot of like twinned action with the leg and the arm, like they both come up at the same time, and I would offset those because like they basically go from pretty much the same kind of shape. Like you get a lot of if you look at the thigh compared to the arm, once you get to here, they kind of stay pretty similar all the way through until it actually touches, and you want to try and delay those or delay one of them so that they at least go like one then the other, one then the other. And I would probably say that the arm should happen later, so the arm can come up here. It should probably be like around this frame, probably like have this be a bit more behind. I mean, it'll be up to you to make the pose look better than I've drawn it, but oops. You can actually have it kind of flick through quite quickly, to be honest. You could even a little bit more drag on there. And then actually like almost bend it the other way and have that hand open up. Yeah, I'd still keep that possibly curve that way slightly. Yeah, and then you get like a changeover. Yeah, something like that. But this this shape here is fine on contact, but then it stays and it feels very IK here again because this never changes until really late. Like once she starts sinking down here, that's when this finally starts to turn, and it needs to happen much sooner. Like once she's contacted and once this elbow drops down here, like this hand pose needs to change. Like it needs to be going downwards here. You can't have that hand stay up on that edge like that. It needs to do that. Like you do it, but you just do it about, was that 729? Yeah, you just do it about a second too late. So if you could possibly just move that motion forwards in time, and you'll be good. You'll be good to go. Otherwise, I mean, I like, there's great stuff about this shot. Like, I think it's just about trying to create a bit of dynamism in some of the posing. Let's see if you can, like, maybe since she's pushing forwards, like maybe put a bit more like spine motion in this way, because she'll be going from this way and curve this way. Like, put a bit more curve in here, I think. Maybe. And then you'll get a little bit of contrast with it going slightly the other way when she gets down to here. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, pretty. Otherwise, it's a nice shot. It works. So I think that's it. I think I will stop. Waffling now. Because again, I've managed to go on way too long. But that's because you left, and therefore I'm allowed to just keep waffling, not under any time constraint. But yeah, like there's loads of great stuff here. Like there's just kind of a few little things. Avoid using IK, I would say, unless you're really going to go in and track those arcs almost frame by frame to make sure that they're really smooth and they're actually drawing proper arcs. Avoid IK for things where it's a pendulum or something on the end of a chain. Yeah, I mean, like technically, like there's a ton of really good stuff here. Like there's just a few kind of poses and a weird few like physicsy things that kind of make it not quite as polished as it could be. But on the whole, it's really good. It's really good. Just kind of a few interesting little choices and things here and there, and a few little bits of attention to detail. Trying to clear up some of the silhouettes, like in this section as well, would be really good. There's a few poses that kind of don't quite work. But yeah, a lot of like line. Try and concentrate on your line of action, and really make sure if you want things to feel kind of violent and energetic, like try and create contrast in those lines of action as much as you can, and things will feel a lot more dynamic. But yeah, like I say, it's really good stuff. So I hope you found that useful. I'll talk to you later or tomorrow or something, and we can have a chat once you've watched the rest of the video. And yeah, if anybody else watching has some stuff they want me to take a look at, or if you've got any questions, hit me up on Twitter is probably the best place. And yeah, I'm happy to look at whatever people send me. That's more than happy. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.